What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee and Questions podcast. I am Michelle Berman Michael, your host, and it's been a minute. So I am really excited to be back into the flow of podcasting with you guys. Full transparency, I had a miscarriage, I had holidays, I had life happen. So for me, it just took a little bit for me to get back to the flow of doing these. But I am very excited to reboot with this amazing woman who I am very lucky to have accidentally met. And I think that's the beautiful side of what we do for a living and really just the beautiful side of social, if you ask me. But I'll tell you quickly about Amanda before we get into the weeds here. But I actually met Amanda on accident through social from one of my mortgage clients who I've become friendly with here in Nashville, Tennessee, actually. She was a mortgage sponsor of Amanda's podcasting conference. I reached out to Amanda because I was like, whoa, this is really cool. I'm a mom. I have a podcast. I am in mortgage. What's going on here? So that's how Amanda and I met. But what can I tell you about Amanda quickly before she tells you so much more about her? First and foremost, this is Amanda Bennett. She is a podcast guest strategist who helps mom entrepreneurs grow their audiences and impact by getting booked on or as guests on podcasts that align with who they are. And she has over a decade of experience, guys, in nonprofit fundraising and management. She has a really cool story about how she got into what she does now from that. So I can't wait to dig into that piece. But she really entered the podcasting world back in 2019. The name of her podcast is the Gotcha Mama podcast, which I love. I love the name. It's so relatable to all of us, I feel like. But since then, she has helped her clients land over 100 guest spots on top ranked shows, grow their businesses, build meaningful connections, most importantly, and do it through being guests on other people's podcasts. So cool. And I'll let her tell the rest because I don't want to take her thunder on being an awesome mom. But Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for being here. I love hearing how people connect with each other because you see these people in the online space and maybe you know one person and you're like, how did they meet that person? It's just interesting to me and I think it shows the power of social media. It shows the power of podcasting, the power of just connections and networking. So I'm so glad to be here and chat with you today.
I'm so excited about it. I think you just have a really special story, one that I immediately connected to because I will tell you, when I started my podcast, it was a side gig. It was like hey, this is fun. And I very quickly realized how impactful it was on generating business for myself, not necessarily knowingly, but also me being able to strategically align myself with people to come on my show that then created opportunities for me to go on theirs or on bigger ones that helped grow my business. So let's dive into who is Amanda? Where did Amanda come from? How did this all come to be? And I love the backstory. So I would love for you to start wherever feels
Yeah,
best
so I have so obviously there's so much to tell about the
for you.
backstory. Um, we can get into some of the nitty-gritty later, but before, like in my previous life, before kids, I worked in nonprofit fundraising for college athletics. I worked at the University of Georgia, and I have a master's in nonprofit management. So that was my world, like fundraising, donor stewardship, scholarship stewardship. We did all of that. So I take a lot of that knowledge of building relationships, even that sales aspect, because fundraising is selling your thing. So I had all of that, but then to speak to the part about being a mom, in 2016, I had my daughter and really decided that it made the most financial sense for me to stay at home. And quickly I realized that so much of my identity had been wrapped up in my career, what I had done. And so sitting at home with this newborn baby that I had no clue, she had dairy protein allergy. We had trouble sleeping, trouble breastfeeding, all these things that I thought would just come naturally, right? That's what they tell
Mhm.
you. It would just became really challenging. And that became a really pivotal point in my story. And about a year after she was born, a year and a half, I really felt like I needed to get back to something for myself. I wanted to do something, create something, invest something, help people again. But I knew it wasn't going back to a job where I was working 50 hours, 60 hours a week. So I decided to start a podcast. And in that podcast, I thought back to, okay, what were some of the things, what is important for me to convey this message? And I tell this is my nipple cream story, honestly,
Love
is
it.
what I call
So
it.
relatable. I had a lot of it.
Yeah. So I thought back, the moment that stuck out to me the most was when I was talking to another mom about a lot of the struggles I was having breastfeeding and all of these things. And I had no friends who were ahead of me as moms. They were all having babies at the same time. And I thought I was just doing everything wrong. I was like, this is hard because I'm doing it wrong. And the mom I was talking to was like, no. She said, my son is, we went through all the same things. You're gonna be fine. Like these are normal. And she just listened. And then she handed me the thing of nipple cream. And she's obviously not like it's brand new, not
Yeah.
what she used, but she's like, listen, this is gonna help. This is what you need. You're gonna get through this. And that was like the spark that I needed to go, you know what? Other moms need to hear these things too. And so that was the start of the Gotcha Mama podcast. And it just began this whole journey for me of diving into what my skills were again, the creative part, the part of connecting with other moms. And that just snowballed into a whole bunch of things. To your point about connecting with other people online. I mean, through the pandemic, my podcast was my lifeline. I got to talk to other moms in other states, when there was no one in my immediate vicinity that I could talk to. And so those connections, people who were guests on my podcast, then became later clients of mine. There's like so many things that I could share that have come out of that, that not just like one sale or one relationship. It was a whole snowball of things.
Yeah, oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack there, and because I can't even. First of all, nipple cream is life-saving, but I will tell you, I have a very, very good girlfriend who just had a baby like 2 months ago, and there's these new things that were not out when I was having a baby, that are like metal cups that sit on, so you don't have to use nipple cream anymore, and they're much
Okay.
better, and they don't leave you cracked and all that other stuff. So, no, I did not get paid to say that. No, I am not an Amazon affiliate, but it is relevant. And I can't wait to eventually have to purchase these things. We'll just go ahead and say that.
Yes, yes.
I really want to unpack this too and just tell you or have you tell us and have the dynamic here of there are a lot of people. I can think of one client right now named Amber who I adore, love her so much, but she's been in the mortgage space for a long time and she decided to start a podcast. And there's a lot behind why she did. She has her own unique story, but I want to hear from you as someone who this is what you do every single day. If someone is listening to this and they're saying, "Well, I don't have time for a podcast," or "Do I want to do a podcast? Why would I do a podcast?" Maybe like imagine all of the 17 things that someone would maybe say about like, well, do
Yeah.
I have time for that? Do I need to do that for to grow my business? Like all the things. Let's just unpack the idea behind is having a podcast right for me or is it not?
Yeah. And I think it's going to be different for everybody. So you do have to answer those questions. It does take time. But any marketing strategy you do takes time. So you have
Hmm.
to decide you want to go in on that. You have to like or at least tolerate talking.
Yeah.
And if you're in the real estate industry, I know you can talk.
Yep.
I know a lot of realtors here, so I know that's the case. A lot of people in the industry. Um, so that is important, connecting with other people. But I think you also have to think about what is my value proposition here? Why would someone listen to my podcast? Because I think, and I don't want you to overthink it, but I have a good idea going into it because also know that as you start and as you do episodes and go on, you're going to learn more. You're going to get better. You don't have to be like so perfect in that first episode. And I would say, do it messy. Just do it, but understand why you're doing it and have a plan for the type of content you're going to do. Understand, are you just going to do solo episodes? Solo episodes don't take as long as interviews, they don't take the coordination. They set you up as an authority, but then you don't have that benefit of connecting outside with other industry experts. So there's things you have to think about. Um, but I don't want it to be a hurdle, so to speak. It's just having the right expectations. Also understanding it's not immediately probably going to be a moneymaker for you. Like you have to know that this is a marketing strategy that's feeding into your business. That's the way that I've seen it to be most effective as a business strategy there. Um, so I think, yes, there's a lot of, I mean, any other particular, like specific questions you want to talk to?
Yeah,
Because
well, you
there's a
just
ton
you
of
just
them.
made me think of one because I'm in the middle. Many people in my circle know that I'm getting ready to publish my first book. I've been working my freaking behind off on it, and I actually am sitting right here at my desk holding a book called Before the Bestseller that was recommended to me by multiple meetings that I had with others who have written books and done well. And legit, one of the things that this gentleman talks about in this book that I'm reading is the value of going on podcasts as a business strategy. So
Yes.
the timing could not have been better for us to have this conversation with you because I mean, you eat, breathe, and sleep this. So
Yeah.
I really would love it if you could dig into how is it a business strategy? What does that look like? And, forget the fact that, a lot of people are mortgage or real estate agents, but just like entrepreneurs in general, right? Like,
Yeah.
how is this a business strategy? And I will also tell you, so many mortgage professionals, so many real estate agents are writing books. So there is a major reason behind this. And I don't think people understand it or view it as a business strategy the way that you and I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will I'm going to make a parallel here to fundraising because there is a very there are lots of similarities here. When you go on a podcast, you obviously you want to have one signature thing you're going to talk about. You want to have your stories and your things you want to be known for. Maybe you have a framework, maybe you have a unique part of your story. The benefit of having the conversation on podcast is that people get to hear those things. It's a fast track to getting to know you. And one of the things that before people buy with you, work with you, buy from you, invest with you, their time or their money, is that they want to really understand, do I trust this person? And do I think they can get the results they say they can? Do I like them? Do I want to spend my time and money with them? And being able to hear somebody talk about their life experience, their past wins, their framework, their clients' wins, whatever that is, that answers those questions that they're having. So it does the same work as another marketing strategy,
Mm.
but if it's also connecting with a human being that could be in your corner. It's somebody, it's back to fundraising. People used to make fun of the other offices in the university would always poke fun at our major gift officers. They'd be like, all you do is go play golf. All you do is go have dinner with donors. And then I would say, well, do you have a $60 million budget you have to meet? Because we do. And you don't make $60 million just by asking one person one time.
Mm-mm.
So it's the same way in building connections in your business. You're not going to make an investment like a 10 grand investment, someone working with you to coaching or someone working with you to do whatever your services are. They need to get to know you and understand you and trust you. And so hearing that, creating that relationship and then bringing them into your world is how you create a sustainable business. So going on the podcast, I do always talk about, and we want to lead them somewhere. So it's not just asking the host, okay, what do you want to talk about? There's things that you want to talk about too. So how can you help that audience? How can you help them? And then leading them from that to, okay, if that was interesting and you're really curious about this thing, here's how I can help you go deeper. And those are the things I want you to think about when you're reaching out to people, when people reach out to you.
Mm.
It is a way to deepen relationships, yes, nurturing, but yes, your ultimate goal is to have them invest with you, whether it's time or energy or money.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, or even like I'll just be transparent, right? There are people in my world where I know they have a podcast that's the right fit for me, but they don't know me yet. They don't know what I do really well. Maybe we have a mutual connection, maybe we don't. But I can use the create or I can create the relationship with them as a method of breaking the ice
Yeah.
based off of, hey, I've had all these other people on the show who I know you know, but you don't know
Yep.
me yet, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but I will also
Absolutely.
tell you, I get emails, I swear, 3 or 4 times a week at least at this point, with people who are like, oh, I'm this podcast person trying to help this person get booked. Here's all their stats and how amazing they are. And can I just be
Yeah.
the first person to call this out right now and just say, it is horrible. Like it is, there's zero relationship involved in the emails whatsoever. Clearly, the person doing that did not look up the podcast to find out
Right.
what the topics are, who the person is, and it's just it is
It's
prospecting being
bad.
my yeah, I mean prospecting being my superpower. Like I read those and my brain immediately goes into, oh my God, these people need coaching. Like, wow,
Yeah.
this is so bad.
Oh my gosh, Michelle, I'm there with you. I used to pitch for clients, done for you pitching, and I see that too. I book people on podcasts and I see these pitches, and it hurts my feelings when people do this because it's like I understand as a podcaster how much time and effort goes into creating and just love and energy in creating these episodes, and you didn't even go read the description
Mm,
of what my podcast is about. And so I think, yes, approaching podcast hosts as people and thinking about it in a long-term relationship type
yeah.
of context. You're not just going to hop on. It's not a one night stand, okay? If you think
This
about it
is
like
not
that,
Netflix and chill, y'all. No, it is
no. Like you're wasting your time and energy. If you think about it, you have to send the pitch, prep for the interview, promote it. Like there's so much time around it.
not.
If you're not doing it for the right reasons, it's a waste of your time and your time is valuable. So be a human, be a kind human,
Mm.
think about how you can actually help that audience. Is that a good fit? Because I think being on 100 podcasts where your ideal listener is not a good it's not a good strategy. If you're on one that has a bunch of your really invested ideal listeners, great, do it.
Mm.
Like there's no medal for the number of podcasts that you get on.
No.
So I think finding the most aligned, you know, can you legitimately help that audience with your problem, with
Well, I
your
think most people, frankly, want the easy button aspect
yeah,
of it where they're like, oh, I just am going to hire this person, a VA or whoever, to just go get me booked on as many podcasts as possible. And I don't care about the host. I don't care about what they do. I just need visibility. Right. And
no,
this really core, like it just really hits me in my core because
yeah,
I do, obviously my book coming out called The Black Line. And my methodology overall as a whole, as a business owner, what Beyond the Method is utility over virality, right? But we don't need the applause because the applause, yes, it makes us feel good in the moment. And the analogy I used actually a couple weeks ago in a keynote I did was the 50-meter free versus the mile, right? So I swam the mile competitively for many, many years. It was my signature event. It was what I was recruited to college for. But the 50-meter free at every swim meet my entire life. I started swimming competitively at 5, retired at 22. So what is that? 17 years in a pool. I got
yeah,
to tell you guys, the 50-meter free is what everyone wants to watch. It's fast, it's flashy, it's explosive, it's fun. Holy crap, they hit the water, boom, they're done, right? And I had somebody in the audience tell me that the statistic is that the average 50-meter freestyle takes 23 seconds, like combined average of men's best times, women's best times, it's roughly 23 seconds. And I'm like, think about that for a second. It feels so good for a minute, right? Not even a minute. But
hmm
that's what virality does, right? It's this fleeting metric that makes us feel good in the moment. In this case, I've been on 174 podcasts, like go
right,
me, right? But out of the 174, I don't know what the number is for me. I just literally made that number up. But let's pretend it was 150, right? That
yeah,
I've been on. If all 150 of those didn't turn into anything and didn't create opportunity or business for me, was it worth it?
right,
And the answer is no, right?
right,
So being strategic about it, one, yes, as me the guest, I if I can't go on a podcast, like for example, me going on a podcast for investors, like probably not the right audience for me, right? Like just
Right.
reality. Like that's not who I am. That's not the audience I know how to serve. Not my specialty in any capacity. So me sending them an email and saying, "Hey, I'd love to come on your show," that's not fair to them, and it's not going to do anything for me.
Right.
But it's going to add a
Right.
notch to my belt. Oh, I'm at 151. Like again, doesn't do anything, right? But the
No,
mile is that long-term
totally.
sustainable approach.
And I cannot tell you the number of times that having those aligned, like you just really click with somebody, the audience is your audience, you're helping them in a different way. And that the connection from that person to then referring to, hey, you should be on so and so's podcast. Or hey, I should connect you with somebody that you could go talk in their community about this. And that's the least amount of effort, right? When you
Yep.
can have somebody refer you and they understand what you do and know what you do, that's what you want ultimately.
So,
So the effort to do that is going to pay off much, much more than like you said. And I have a story quickly about I have a free podcasting moms club. We get together monthly and talk about what's working in podcasting, what's not. And one of the sweet ladies been podcasting a while now, so probably 4 or 5 years. And she had a goal to be a guest on X number of podcasts. And she was like getting it done. And she hit kind of a plateau because she had been on all the ones that were kind of the same quote unquote level as hers. And she was trying to get on these bigger podcasts. And she's like, Amanda, they just, I know what I'm doing. I'm sending these great pitches, but I'm not hearing anything back. And I said, well, do you know anybody? Do you know the host or do you know anybody that works there, like
mm-hmm.
on the podcast? And she's like, no. And those podcasters that have large audiences, I guarantee you, one, they're not booking themselves.
No.
You need to know who's booking them and create that relationship. So it's not, there's so many layers to that to talk about the value you're talking about, like creating actual relationships with people,
Yeah.
not just notching it. Yeah, but great. I got another one done. It's there is so much more to that.
Well, and I will tell you, I used to be in the same mentality as the woman you just told the story of, I feel like I've hit them all. Like, what do I do? And then I think for me, if I can just be super transparent, breaking into that higher echelon of podcasts, as far as being on certain shows that quote bigger audiences, my superpower here and really how it's been something I've been able to accomplish is leverage. And so she doesn't know the owner of the podcast or the creator of the podcast, but I guarantee you, if she did some due diligence, whether that's on social, whether that's on, LinkedIn
Totally.
or whatever, she would know someone who was connected to that host. And I would honestly push back on it and say in a loving way, yes, you want to go build a relationship with the person pitching or that is booking for that person, but it's still not going to land the way that it should unless you go directly to the person,
Oh
in
yeah,
my
you have
experience.
to. Yeah, no, you have to if you're going to be having a conversation with that person, that's who you want to get to ultimately. That's who you want to create value for. But I think there's in the podcasting space, I will just say this right out as transparently as possible. Every podcast is different. Some podcasters that you think have this huge audience, they book themselves. Like they book audience, they guest themselves. Some people who have really small audiences, they hire a VA or somebody to book
Hmm.
for them. So there's no single one workflow that happens like, oh, I need to fill out a form and then this person will say yes or no and then they send an email. Every host works differently.
Totally.
So you're going to have to navigate that as you go along and knowing that and like advocating for yourself as you go along, like being able to say, hey, okay, well, what do I need? What's the best way to send this information to you? Do you take guests right now? Is there a form I can fill out to make this easy for you? Because like I said, every host is different. I would say what I teach people to do because I no longer pitch done for you because
Mhm.
I do see the value 100% in being able to learn that skill yourself
Yeah.
and pitch yourself. And that's not just a podcast. That's
No,
for
that's
any
in
kind of
general.
collaboration.
I can certainly attest to that.
Yeah. So understanding what that looks like, how to follow up with people without being like slimy. I have a personal pet peeve about the the follow-up email. And if you do this, no shame. But when people are like, hey, just bumping this to the top of your inbox, like, no, thank you. Um, so if you follow up with people, again, just be human. Understand that it's not always um, about something that you've done. It's not always about you. Somebody may be on vacation. They may have taken a break. They may have a personal experience that they're just needing to take a break from their inbox from. So when you follow up with people, have don't tell that story to yourself that it's about you. Just be kind, like, hey, following up is the kind thing to do. I've had people multiple times thank me for following up with them
Yep.
because when you approach them with something that can help them and you are genuinely interested in being a partner in value, like, hey, I like you. I'm curious to know more about you and
Hmm.
how I can help the people you help. Yeah, even if you're not a great fit, people will say, "Thanks so much for following up," because it shows you care.
Oh, yeah.
But back to that, I teach people to cultivate, right? So to your point about sh like reaching out on socials, finding out what that person is selling, what they're working on, what they're pitching, their product is,
Hmm.
what their how you can refer them. Like there's so many ways you can provide value to a person without saying, "Hey, you can come on my podcast." Like
Yeah.
as a reciprocating. And I
Hmm.
think that's where a lot of people fall short too. Podcasters or people who want to have a podcast, like, I just don't have a big audience. But you have all these other assets. You can create content for them. You can refer them to somebody. You can go in there if you're in the community and say share a win that you got from using their product or working with them. Like there's so many ways you can add value to that person. And when they see that you care and you're genuine, like, okay, this person, they're not just pitching me because they, back to your point, they're not just pitching me because they want to be on one other podcast. People will see that.
Yeah.
And it is in some way about putting in the practice also. You're not going to get to that huge podcast right away unless you have those direct connections. So it is a web of relationships, and you have to always have your antenna up about that.
I mean, it's 100%. I'm just like mic drop, we're out. But no, in seriousness, we have more to talk about with this. But um, it's relationship after relationship after relationship that creates the next one. And where leverage really comes in, based off what I just heard you describe, is, hey, I want to get into that next tier of, caliber for your example. Go find the host. What are they posting about on social? Where have they been? What are they doing? But more importantly, guys, like, who are they connected to that you might
Yeah.
know, right?
Oh, yeah.
Leverage by definition. I don't know what the Webster dictionary definition is, but I know what Michelle Michael's definition is, and it's being able to build a bridge between someone you already have a relationship with to get to somebody that you don't. So in this
Yes.
case, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, it doesn't matter. It's going to show you who those mutual connections are. But
Yeah.
also, we're going to transition to the, hey, I'm posting content about my podcast on social in just a second. But this has been the most powerful unlock for me, because when I see someone who has interviewed somebody that I have a very good, or a at least some semblance of a relationship with, or that I've personally interviewed, right? Meaning, like, if I'm looking at this podcast, I want to get on it, and they've recently interviewed someone that has just been on mine, that is the most incredible form of leverage you could ever have. Right. So being able to understand how to view a social platform as an opportunity and not just as a check a box
Yeah.
in your business is how we turn in my opinion, how we turn I have a podcast into a business strategy that actually then creates money.
I talk all the time about, again, when I'm teaching my framework to people about 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, because that plays out everywhere, right? You are definitely connected in the internet's world now. It's got to be less than six, but you are connected to anybody in this world through less than 6 other people. I guarantee it. And so, yes, I mean, there are from in-person groups, networking communities, like you said, Instagram, there's so many ways, LinkedIn, all these platforms that you can see who are those people connected to. Yeah.
I mean, it's just game changing. And I think that's the perfect way for us to segue because obviously you have your own social presence for sure, but you specialize in helping people strategize around getting on shows, pitching all of the behind the scenes that I don't, right?
Yep.
Um, but when it comes to like I love your Instagram and I love seeing what you post because it's just like I feel like I know you, right? That's the whole
Thank
point.
you.
Now, obviously, I do know you, so I can now also look at it with a different lens. But
Right.
I think the biggest piece that I want to transition to is where does someone like a mortgage loan officer, and by the way, I have to tell you this because she's going to listen to this episode because I just texted her and told her she needed to.
Okay.
But I have a very good friend, Amber, who I referred to in the beginning of this episode. And I texted her and I said, Amanda and I are recording right now. And when this episode comes out, you have to listen to it. And by the way, she has a conference coming up in Nashville, and I want you to come. You need to be my guest. And this particular person, Amber, she also has her own podcast, but she's
Yeah.
in mortgage. So very much so a mom. She actually just lost her mom, but a mom of her own and all of that. But what I wanted to share on this part specifically is, and my question to you maybe would be, Amber's in mortgage. She does mortgages all day, every day. That is what she does for a living. Why would someone like Amber say, I'm going to start a podcast? Or what would you recommend to someone that might say that?
Yeah, I think there's so much space in podcasting to be yourself. And I say that as like being unique, being different, but then also using that to sell or offer what you offer. Now, would you talk about things that have no relation to what you're doing as selling mortgage more as a mortgage broker? No. But people want to know about you. They want to know your perspective. And I think there is whatever you share of value is through your own lens. So I think when you can figure out, yeah, who are you talking to and what kind of questions are they having? There's so much space for that type of content. And does it need to be for everyone? No. Like you can't work with everyone, right? So you just need to think about, okay, who are the people that I want to work with? What kinds of questions are they having? What types of beliefs are they having about themselves, about their current situation, about the way things could be? Speaking to that through your own lens. And I would encourage you to be creative. I would encourage you to be different because people are craving the uniqueness. And I think with podcasting have evolving the way it has over the past 5, 8, 10 years, there's people now see that you can create a personal brand. You can create your own business just by being a podcaster, but
Mm-hmm.
it also has so much power when you use that influence to direct it and let people know how you can help them with your business.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say do it. Um, Understanding there is work and effort that goes into that. And I would also say don't be afraid to delegate once you have a little bit of that like financial buffer there because outsourcing editing or outsourcing someone managing your podcast is going to free up a lot of your time too.
Yeah.
So I'm not a manager. I don't do that, but I know lots of podcast managers who do. And that when podcasters quit podcasting, it's because it becomes to feel too much of a burden. And it's usually because of that. It's like the creation process.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just encourage you to explore that. If you feel like you want to create a podcast, explore what that would look like.
Mm.
You can even start with a series. Like you could even start with a short series of a theme podcast. If you're like, I don't know if I want to commit to this. Yeah, I think so much opportunity. So yeah, start it.
Yeah, I no,
People want to know.
I'm with you. And I have a friend, they have their own podcast, but they also have a mortgage CE company, which is where you get your CE certifications and you have to do your
Yeah.
annual renewal, all that stuff, right? But
Yeah.
every season of CE, they do like a different theme. So they do like Star Wars, and then one year they did Harry Potter, and then it's like different every year. And they really just like embrace whatever the theme is for the year. And that's kind of what's coming to my mind when you just described that, because I think it is intimidating. And I remember when I started mine, I'm on episode 76 or 77, whatever the number is. And I remember looking back and being like, I have no idea what I am doing. I'm just
Yeah.
going to get on Zoom with this person and hit record. And then whatever happens after that, we'll just figure it out. Didn't have a good microphone. The visuals weren't good, like all of that stuff. When I look back at that now, and I'm just like, ugh, right? But there's so much beauty in the transformation there for me. And honestly, you can literally see the evolution of who I am over that time. But where I was going with that is, now when I produce content, I'll be really transparent here too, because in the spirit of me and you just being transparent beings on this show, when I post content on social about the podcast, or from a clip of an episode, I think the number one thing for me is exactly what you said. It's being different. It's creating a space for me in my lane that is very crowded. Right now, I live in the social media coaching world, and I hate that terminology. And I hired a coach many years ago now who's really helped me identify my lane in the space overall. And I'm not a social media coach, I'm a social media prospecting expert. And it was when I understood the difference between this box over here and this box that I fit in, my
Mm,
messaging changed so wildly that it was very apparent to me. I have to talk about this, and I can't just do it by getting on as many stages as possible, because that
right.
that takes me away from home. That takes me away from all the things that I need to be involved in. But what podcasting has done for me is it's given me the ability to have people hear me and hear how I actually say things. And
Yep.
then they're like, wait, that's a different perspective. And I think half of our battle is providing a unique way of positioning what we do and having
Mhm.
people believe that we're the right person for them.
Right.
So, but I do think that, to your point, which you've said several times, and I really hope people heard it, you have to know what your value proposition is. You have to know why you're doing it, because
Mhm.
when you are that clear on it, it becomes this just space for people to hear you talk about what it is that you love, and why you're so good at it, to the point where you don't have to pitch anything. They just come to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, truly.
Yes. And with podcasting, if you put out content monthly, once a month, once a week, you're staying top of mind with that person. And I
Yeah.
think especially in real estate and mortgages and in the industries where you may not have somebody buying, repeat every single day, you want to be top of mind with people so that yes, you work with them when they're ready and they will refer people when they meet them because you're top of mind with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is powerful in that way too.
I mean, there's something about hearing someone's voice, I think, though, for me, especially, like when I hear someone's voice, it's almost like I can instantly determine whether or not I like you or not. I don't know if
Mm,
that's just my intuition working or what it is, but you can hear someone's raw, authentic genuineness and how they talk. And
yep,
you can't get that from a blog, right? You can't get that from a
exactly.
blog article the way you could if that same person who wrote the blog article audioed it, or like,
Right.
did it in a video format where you can see their mannerisms and hear them talk. There's just something really powerful about it. And I truly believe if people don't know who you are, they need to. And Amber, when she texted me back, she goes, Amanda's somebody I need to know. And I'm like, exactly what I'm trying to say.
I
Uh,
love that.
but that's what we're here for, right? And I think, if I can, you have a really cool conference that you do that's not just for real estate and mortgage professionals. It's really just for anyone who has a podcast. And I think technically you got to be a mom,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's what we want, right? Um,
Right.
but I would love for you to tell us more about this, because honestly, this is how I found you. So I think
Yeah.
people need to know about it.
And this is kind of, meta, the like connections happening in real time when we had the connections here.
Yeah.
But I will say, yes, we primarily this event is for moms and women entrepreneurs who either have a podcast or want to start a podcast. And there just wasn't, talk about being unique in your space, there wasn't anything out there like this. There are huge conferences where there's men and women together, and I know you can speak to this being lots of industries are male dominated, and that's
Mhm.
just there's just more men than women, and men a lot of they get the microphone a lot easier than women do. And that's just something we have to step up and be willing to like take the mic and say, you know what? I've got something to say too. And we wanted to create a safe space for that. So with all these, Podfest is great, podcast movement is awesome, but they're massive, massive conferences where there's really not a space except for like in the line to the bathroom or getting coffee to have these one-on-one conversations. You know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
I trust me,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So we wanted to create this intimate space where we could really talk about, okay, what's working, what's not working, and have it be from a really personal, comfortable conversational space and not have some huge keynote speaker that honestly we know has a team of like 5 people running their podcast talking to us about how to do XYZ. So we started, this is the second year we've done it, and we had around 40 mom podcasters there. It's a we talked about monetization, we talked about building community, and again, time and time again, what we hear from attendees that they liked the most was the time they got to just talk with each other,
Mm.
the time they got to connect one on one. And I've seen ripples of those relationships throughout the year after the event. I've seen people do collaborations, people do teachings in each other's communities, podcast swaps, like all kinds of things. And that's what we wanted to create for people, which is what we're talking about in real
Yeah.
time is creating those relationships that really move the needle in your business.
Yeah. Well, for me, I have goosebumps right now. I don't know if you can see that probably, but hearing that there were 40 people in my mind, I'm like, girl, we can get to 100. Like that's just where my head goes is like there is such a movement here, no pun intended, that needs to be recognized. And as women in the space, I think it's our job, and I truly 100% understand as a female speaker in a very male dominated field, there are very few female keynote speakers that talk about social in the capacity that I think is valuable, because most of it is crap, frankly. And I know that this is my podcast, so I can say that. But it is true. And I know, my audience understands that our job, I think, is to create a unique identity within our lane. And so to hear that, to hear what what the conference does and who it's for, in my mind, I'm like, I cannot wait to be a support system to you and to how do we build this? Because one, we're in Nashville. Who doesn't want to come to Nashville? So
Yeah, it's so
if
fun.
if
Come to
you are a
Nashville.
female mortgage originator, a female real estate agent, a female entrepreneur, anyone, if you are listening to this, you are a mom or a female in the industry and you either want to start a podcast or you have one and you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I just feel like I need to be doing this, but I need some support, then please reach out to Amanda. We're obviously going to have our show notes with all of her information. Please reach out to me because guess what? I know how to get to her too. But Amanda, do you have an idea of when the conference is going to be this coming year? Because I think that would also be helpful for people.
Yeah, we always try to plan it in the spring because honestly, spring in Nashville is pretty magical. But we try to do it before all the summer chaos hits with moms and,
Mm-hmm.
we understand schedules shift. So we don't have a firm date yet, but it's usually in March or April of the years we've done it. So we're eyeballing that again for next year. As soon as we have a date and a venue picked out, we will spread that far and wide. But we would love for you to come, Amber. I know you're listening, so
Yes, she
I'm
is, or she
expecting you
will
to
be.
be there.
Yes, she will be for sure. Amber's the perfect person. If you guys don't know who she is, you will because we're gonna have her share all of her stuff too. But no, I mean, I just love what you're doing. It is so easy for me to want to be a part of it because
Mm.
I do it every single day. Like I do it. And so I think that's a big part of it for me of just the level of support I feel like I can give. And as a woman of faith and someone who believes in serving our people,
Mhm.
the fact that I have a platform to be able to serve you on a mission that you have is just incredibly powerful for me, and it just makes my heart happy. So,
Which again
it's
is the
cool.
power of having a podcast.
Yes. Or else we would not be talking right now, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
who knows? Um, but I'm super grateful for you and to be just to be a good steward of your time because I know we're wrapping up here. But where can people get dialed into who you are and what you're doing, how they can hire you, and then also obviously to follow up with the timing of the conference if it's something that they want to put on their radar.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as we have any more information about that, or to see past, if you're curious about what it was like this year, you can go to my Instagram at Gotcha Mama, and that'll be in the show notes there. You
Yeah.
can see kind of like glimpses of what it was like and what to expect. But you can connect with me if you're curious about any of this we talked about today. You can book a chat to talk about guesting and see if it's right fit for you or if starting a podcast is right for you at gotchamama.com/guest. And that should be the easiest way to connect with me to chat. But yeah, I'd love, I'm not as prolific. I don't have a lot of Instagram posts out there, but I do think it is a powerful tool because I know my people are on Instagram and I know Michelle has I align with your philosophy on Instagram. So you'll see that if you pop over there, but I would love to connect more.
I love it. Well, thank you, Amanda, just for your time, for your expertise, just how much you love this industry. It's so obvious. The passion is oozing out of you. Like it's just very easy to see. So, thank you again for being on the show. And thank you guys for listening. If you love this episode, the best thing you could possibly do is leave a review on our show on Google, wherever you're watching it, Apple, Spotify, it doesn't matter. But just let us know. And if you loved Amanda, you know what to do. Reach out to her directly. But until next time, guys, we'll see you in another episode of the Coffee and Questions podcast.